Adi, first of all, this show is absolutely fantastic. Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remix, kind of puts all these Ubisoft characters into your universe, which is incredible. Can you share some insight into the creative process, blending the Ubisoft characters like Captain Laserhawk Blood Prince remix, and how you ensure each of these characters maintain their unique essence while fitting into the Audiverse?
It's a great question, man. Okay, so my creative process is more intuitive than it is logical, right? So I'm essentially peering in. I'm looking at, and I'm documenting this alternate reality that exists within my subconscious, right? So it's like pouring out of me, and I'm not. It's versus like trying to think through it and go like, what would be a good character to put in here?
Sure.
This is like literally something that's happening. It's like happening to me, and then I have to like write it down, right? So it feels. I don't know if that made any sense or if I sound like a crazy person, but that is the process. So, or rather, that's how the process generally tends to unfold for me whenever I'm doing something creative, something like this. So, I have an understanding and a love for every single character in this, because this series is essentially a love letter to everything I loved growing up, right? This is a new universe populated by characters and things and people and ideas that I love.
So I was saying that, but like all of your projects, I feel like I've connected with them so deeply. We've been friends for a long time, and I've connected with all of your projects because I feel like they're so timely and relevant from the fan film and innovative, because in the fan film space, nobody was really doing it the way you were, especially with Punisher, Dirty Laundry, Truth and Journalism, Pokemon, The End, Power Rangers, et cetera, et cetera. But also feature films like Dredd took that to a whole nother level. And also the series for Netflix, Guardians of Justice, that felt as if it was very innovative in itself, crossing genres and blending also visuals. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of like the way you conceptualize these things? And you spoke a little bit about peering in and writing down certain things and scenes and experiences. Can you talk about that and expand on that a little bit?
What do you mean by innovative, Joseph?
So I feel like you do a great job of connecting with an audience in a completely visual type of way that hasn't really been done before. And we see these images that are projected at us that have deeper meanings. I mean, we even see it in Captain Laserhawk, right? With I don't want to give too much away, but some stuff that happens with the hybrids. I feel like that imagery is very innovative in telling those type of stories. Also, the way that you kind of blend something like Captain Laserhawk, blend the video game kind of aesthetic visually with the animated show. That type of stuff as well, but also some of the themes that we touch upon with all of your work seems very relevant, innovative, and timely, honestly, for when it comes out.
Okay, I'm going to attempt to answer your question. So in the West, right? Astrologers, fortune tellers, psychics, it's not like a normal thing, right? Where I'm from in India, have you seen Indian Matchmaker, Joseph?
I know about it. I've seen like a couple episodes. Yeah, I'm familiar.
So in episodes of Indian Matchmaker, you'll see that like all of a sudden, they're trying to match two people up, and then the matchmaker will go see a face reader who will just like look at the face and tell you the future of the bride or the groom, right? Or an astrologer that will tell you, okay, this is the journey, the arc of this person. So this is like a kind of a normal fact of reality from where I'm from. I come from a lineage of mystics. So my grandmother, my grandfather, my grandmother she just recently passed away.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. She was a she was a renowned author in South India. her works are in the Library of Congress. My grandfather, the same. He wasn't I'm struggling to talk about this.
No, but this is really interesting.
So my grandmother could see the future, because she would call you and say, hey, this such and such is going to happen on such and such date, right? And my grandfather had an element of that as well. And it manifested differently in him. I never met my grandfather. So for me, my dreams a lot of times are prophetic. Again, this isn't something I'm asking for. That it happens to me. So I'll wake up, and it's not always a great experience. Sometimes it's overwhelming. Sometimes it's unpleasant. But I'll have these prophetic dreams of the future. And sometimes I can download the future of a single human being, right? So if I'm sitting with a person or talking to them on the phone, if I just kind of hold their hand, it feels like the movie Frailty. That's the best way to describe it. All of a sudden, it feels like a download coming in. It's like a rip-o-matic of their life up until now, and where the crossroads are, where the forks in the road are. I can also sometimes go into a room with other people, and I know what they're feeling, even if they're not telling me what they're feeling. I even if they're trying to mask it, I know what's going on. I can feel the emotion. It's almost like reading someone's soul. So again, I never had to instruct a training manual for any of this stuff, right? But this has helped me navigate my career. Just as like one silly example. This is one silly example in a mountain of examples. A few years ago, I was just closing my eyes, and all of a sudden, I had a voice screaming to me saying, "This is the story of how PUBG came about, right? I had a voice screaming at me, hey, call this guy that you knew from 10 years ago. Get it? Again, I didn't have this guy named Chris Lee. I didn't have his phone number. I didn't. So I got in touch with him on Facebook later that day. Okay, I'm just going to listen to this voice screaming at me. And he literally messages me back right away going, this is crazy. I was just sitting down with the CEO of PUBG. And they want you. They wanted me to get in touch with you. Again, this is one example. It's actually probably a bad example, but a lot of what I'm doing, what you're describing, is things that are downloaded, and then I'm transcribing, or I'm following some sort of thread. And again, I was going to say I can see threads, but that's not true. I can feel the threads. It's like I can feel the pulse. So I know what's going to come next because I've experienced it already, and I've felt it already. So I know what's going to come next. I know what's going to come after that, and I know what's going to come after that, and I know where the collective consciousness is heading. And it's almost like a download. It just appears, and then I write about it, and sometimes recruit other people to try to get it made, and then that's just the yeah. Do you have any questions?
I have a follow-up question about that, because I find that super interesting. How much of that ability is kind of seen in your works, and has that always kind of been the driving force? Because the one thing I've always loved about your work is that you choose the projects that you want to work on. And how has that helped you navigate through Hollywood by choosing said projects? Because I feel like for a lot of producers, just in general, that's kind of uncommon.
Yeah, but again, I don't know if I'm choosing the projects or they're choosing me, right?
Great point.
It's just coming in, and then it's like I see the thing, and then I start seeing a roadmap of how to manifest it.
I see. I see.
Which is why I'm so detached from a lot. Not detached, like I'm in love, because I do try to follow the vibration of love here, right? There is a love vibration that to me is the most important. Like if I don't love something, it's not. Because to me, being in this business is, it's a process of falling in love.
Sure.
Right. And if I'm not in that love vibration, then it doesn't really make sense to proceed.
Well, I was going to say, speaking on the theme of love, we see that too with some of our characters here, Captain Laserhawk, Alex Taylor. I want to talk about that for a brief second on what inspired kind of their arc in the story.
It just kind of came to me and it happened. So there's that. But if I were to try to intellectualize it, reverse engineer it, Dolph is a guy who's too attacked. So the reason Dolph can't become the person he wants to become is because he's too attached to the guy he's been.
Absolutely. All right. So let me ask you this. I mean, you and I share a lot of common interests in this, and I have to get this question in, or else my wrestling purist will kill me. I know that you and Cody Rhodes are good buddies. He announced on Twitter, which is now X's, that he's going to be appearing in this. But a pleasant surprise to me was the cleaner Kenny Omega also made an appearance in this, sporting Bret Hart sunglasses. Talk to me about how that came about.
I just literally texted. I sent Kenny Omega a text, and I was like, "I got something for you." That's not actually what I said. I don't remember what I specifically said to him, but I texted Kenny Omega. And
so
that was it. I wish I had some some eloquent story about how this happened, but no, I just reached out to Kenny.
Well, let me ask you back to talking about the bigger picture, the bigger series of Captain Laserhawk. So real quick, I wanted to know about, as you were talking kind of about like seeing things. And I know that like when I watched this, I immediately connected with it because it felt extremely relevant to everything that's going on now. How long ago did you start this project? Because I feel like this is hitting at such a timely manner. And there's, what was that?
2017.
Wow.
Joseph, again, life feels weird for me sometimes because there's an episode of Twilight Zone where the dude is on the typewriter and he's like writing news stories and then they're like happening. They like happen, right? Because he's got a magical typewriter. But it feels like that. And Guardians and what you were hinting at with Guardians of Justice, it was the same thing. Like literally on that show, the cast would call me up and be like, dude, because there'd be entire scenes that we shot that would happen like 2 years later. And they'd be like, dude, that was like literally verbatim a scene we shot and that just happened. I'm like, I know.
I mean, I hate to bring this up, but it's kind of there's a scene that happens in this with Rayman where, I mean, look, right now we currently know that the WGA and SAG had their long extended strike and SAG-AFTRA is still going. But there's a scene in there with Rayman that is extremely relevant to a lot of what's being presented with some of these strikes. And I feel that like that was like right on the head in the lexicon of like something like an AI. You know what I mean? And it was almost as it like that Twilight Zone episode, in 2017, you were already thinking about that. Whereas here we are in 2023, and that is one of the hottest subjects going on in entertainment.
I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about it. I was like literally experiencing it and then documenting it.
Wow. To me, that is incredible because you had mentioned earlier on that you kind of, when you meet somebody, you kind of can know what they're going through. You kind of explain that a little bit. And I mean, not terribly long ago, you and I had a very similar experience where I was dealing with a ton of stuff. And out of the blue, you reached out and I was just like, wow, this is kind of crazy that we were even started talking to you. I'm sure you remember this. Yes.
Yeah, that happened. So I knew you were being poisoned and I got a message to call you or reach out to you. I didn't call, I didn't have your number, but I reached out and I knew, that's par for the course with me. No, I got an image of you. It was almost like Venom, like suffocating you. And I was like, hey, dude, you're being poisoned. And I knew what was poisoning you. And then that happened.
Which we spoke about. And that actually is almost cleared up after we spoke about that. We talked a little bit about treatments and stuff. And yeah, that was wild. So like tapping into that, are you already starting to develop season 2 of this with some of the ideas and concepts that you're conceptualizing now with this?
You're like, are you using your clairvoyance to make season 2?
Essentially. Essentially, yes. I mean,
it's kind of an involuntary thing, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but no, it's not. Look, I do have control over it as well. So it's not, so like a lot of my like close friends and family members and collaborators know that I have this ability. So they do reach out when they're going through hurdles, and they're like, hey man, can you look into this for me? Or can you tell me how X, Y, and Z is going to play out? Yeah, it's kind of trippy. It's kind of trippy. It's a trippy thing to experience.
Yeah, I can imagine. I feel like that's a lot of responsibility also.
But it's also it's overwhelming as well, right? Because it's not like because I'm there. It feels completely real to me. So everything you're experiencing on the show, you know, and look, I can reverse engineer it in an interview and say, yes, I approached this with psychological realism so that the characters felt real. But like, dude, like this actually felt 100% real. Yeah, like I was like experiencing this for real, and then transcribing.
I mean, and then like I said, this show's extremely relevant. As I was watching it, it's some of the things that are literally happening in our world today, just in a more fantastical version of that, which is. I mean, there's a part in there that they got me quite emotional a little bit. I think it was episode 3 or 4, but I can't wait for everyone to see this. And I would love to do a follow-up on this and kind of deep dive some of the themes and kind of like the diving in more to the process to understand what's going on more with how you do all this stuff, man. So look, I appreciate your time. I always love talking to you.
I don't do this stuff, man. I think that's the big difference. I'm not actually doing it. It's like a gift from my lineage that I like, that, you know, all my family members have, and I'm just applying it to a Western context because
right. I mean, it seems as common as is going to like, I don't know, like a chiropractor, I guess would be like the best way to kind of describe it or something like that. Right.
Yeah. But yes. There's no suspension of disbelief in India. Right, because people are like, "Oh yeah, that's Adi. Yeah, no, he's clairvoyant. He can see X, Y, and Z. He's clairaudient. He's clairsentient. These aren't. Yeah.
Well, look, we'll catch up. We're gonna follow up on this because I want to deep dive more into this show. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I love it, and I love the way what you do visually with it. I think gamers are going to love it. People into animation are going to love it, and it's a fantastic, timely, and relevant story. Thank you so much for your time, and I look, I'd love to catch up with you and talk about this more. So thank you.